Hello, you beautiful, amazing, wonderful American patriots and other less important freedom-hating people. A lot of German cities have suburban S-Bahn networks and U-Bahn metro networks, but do you know what the A stands for in Hamburg's USA-Bahn?
Is mayonnaise a
Metro network?
It stands for AKN Eisenbahn. I guess I'm saying those acronyms the English way instead of AKN. Yeah. Woo! Yes, I present to you the AKN Railway, also known in full as the Altona Kaltenkirchen Neumünster Eisenbahn GmbH. It's the weirdest part of Hamburg's transit network. And yes, it is considered part of Hamburg Public Transit. It's co-owned by the city of Hamburg and the state of Schleswig-Holstein. Most of the routes are rural. It doesn't even run to Altona anymore. What even is this rail service? And why did I ride the entire network over the span of 2 days, even the bits currently run by rail replacement buses? Well, let's get into that. Hello there, fine internet people. Check out these pants. I'm not sponsored or anything. Those were just a gift from my sister. Hello and welcome to beautiful, exotic, scenic, Jungfernstieg. Today we're catching the U1 line towards northwest terminus at Norderstedt Mitte. Ah, the U1, Germany's longest subway line. Norderstedt Mitte is also a bit of a special station. First off, it has this brickwork that kind of reminds me of a North American school building, particularly the high school I attended in Texas. And it's pretty clean too. Alright, so I have 15 minutes to kill before the train towards Neumünster, which we're just taking as far as Ulzburg Süd, because that's like the main interchange. I guess that or Kaltenkirchen. I don't know if we'll get up at Kaltenkirchen. But anyways, here's an elevator review. Let's do the elevator smell test. And it's not the cleanest elevator in the world, but it smells bad. I like how it has these buttons that are supposed to light up. I've seen them light up in other elevators and they just aren't working here. But yeah, let's go. Very slow, very methodical, very demure. Alright, now I guess we'll just go back down. But second off, at the end of the two U-Bahn terminus platforms is a single Spanish solution style track. There's actually a few platforms like this at a few different AKN stations. I'm surprised we don't see more of this here in Germany where, fun fact, and no offense locals, people seem physically unable to be able to queue up. Anyway, this is the former terminus of the A1 line and the current terminus of the A2. The AKN network is kind of in a weird flux right now. The little rural rail buses and DMUs that operate these lines used to have some routes that went all the way to Hamburg hop-on-hop via Eidelstedt a few times a day, but those have been cut back due to construction. The S5 route, everyone's favorite, I know, is being extended north and taking over part of the A1 line to Kaltenkirchen. With that comes the occasional route closure for construction. But before we go on, you know what? My train's here. Let's go over a bit of its history. Good old Eisenbahngeschichte. The railway called the AKN was first formed in 1879 and was meant to connect towns around Hamburg such as Elmshorn, Henstedt, Ulzburg, and Norderstedt. It even, in these early days, went all the way to Altona, which was an independent city and not yet part of Hamburg. It had its own special station too, across from the main station. Nowadays, the AKN is a publicly owned company, co-owned by two different German states. While it's definitely not the fastest way from Hamburg to Neumünster or Elmshorn or whatever, it is within the HUV transit network, except for the two Neumünster stops. But that doesn't matter, as I was using a Deutschland ticket for my trip with my husband, meaning tariff zones and such didn't really matter and didn't cost us a single cent. What is now the three-line AKN network used to be several different railways. The AKN, as in the original company called the AKN, went from Eidelstedt in Hamburg to Neumünster via Ulzburg Süd and Kaltenkirchen. At Ulzburg, there was a connection to the A and B, the Alster Nordbahn, which operated from there to Norderstedt Mitte and even onto Garstedt. Those segments south past Norderstedt Mitte, by the way, are actually part of the U-Bahn's U1 line now. Another round of applause for Germany's longest subway line, everyone.
And I love you, random citizen.
Nowadays, the former southern part of the original AKN route runs from Eidelstedt to Ulzburg Süd and sometimes Kaltenkirchen as the A1. Meanwhile, the A2 consists of most of the former A and B and the northern part of the original AKN. Things get weird though when we discuss the third and final line, the A3. This third line originally went from Elmshorn to Barmstedt and was known as the EBO, and it has the oddest story of all. I mean, just look at a modern metro map of Hamburg. This is the only AKN line with 0 links to the S-Bahn or U-Bahn network. EBO, sometimes spelled out as EBOE, stood for Elmshorn, Barmstedt, Oldesloe, Eisenbahn. While the current route does in fact go from Elmshorn to Barmstedt and then on to Ulzburg Süd, the original route was quite different. The A3 shares track with the A2 between Henstedt, Ulzburg, and Ulzburg Süd, and you can even see where it joins the line while on board the A2. However, Ulzburg Süd was not meant to be the original terminus here. Originally, the only shared connection would have been at Henstedt, Ulzburg, which has had a few different names over time, by the way, and then the route would have turned east, heading all the way to the town of Bad Oldesloe. That may sound a bit odd, as Bad Oldesloe currently is only served by more regional routes, though in the future will be the terminus of Hamburg's S4 line. But that route will extend out from Hamburg itself. Most of the stations on this line from Henstedt, Ulzburg to Bad Oldesloe are actually abandoned now, and that makes me sad.
Another siding, I wonder if there's like staggered service when it's like running normally and not being half converted into an S-Bahn line.
We've just pulled into Ulzburg Süd here itself, and it's a station in the middle of a farmer's field basically. Our plan today was to head north to Neumünster, then head back to Elmshorn via a regional train to ride the rest of the AKN lines. However, due to a mix-up on our end, we actually ended on an A1 train heading south to Bergvedel, where we'd have to catch a rail replacement bus to Eidelstedt. This was a bit of a mess.
So I have bad news. This is not the A3, this is the A1. So basically we get to the next station, we get off, we get back on, and then we go back to Ulzburg Süd. Or we could just transfer to that one. Nah. Full route. Ooh, look, fancy parking lot. We love parking oriented development here. I just realized something that it feels like the trash can is like, oh, there it is.
With all the construction work and such, there's a web of rail replacement buses at ever-changing points all throughout the AKN network as of 2024. And trying to ride this whole network, we ended up having to ride several of these. I'm sorry, I'm not much of a bus foamer. Fun fact on Bergvedel, I can't speak. According to one source I found, only around 900 people a day used the Bergvedel stop pre-construction. For all the stations within Hamburg itself, so not the HVV network as a whole, but specifically the city of Hamburg, across the entire USA-Bahn, this may in fact be the least used station in the entire Hamburg network. Asterisk, inside Hamburg itself. And if anyone at the HVV or AKN are watching, can you please confirm or deny that more clearly? That'd be awesome. After arriving in Eidelstedt and being scared by the sight of yet another rail replacement bus, we hopped on the S-Bahn train, keyword train, not a bus, and headed to Pinneberg. From there, we hopped on a rather delayed regional train and set off to Elmshorn.
This blows. Oh crap, we're actually moving.
I like Elmshorn. In fact, I really like Elmshorn. It's a pretty town with a great model train store and also a rather unique station. Look at this AKN platform. It's just a little nub that pops out of platform 1. It doesn't even get its own number, it's just platform 1A. Unlike on the A2 route, which had the newer DMU trains, the A1 and the A3 still use these little rail buses. These things are definitely showing their age. Oh, and they're loud as hell.
We have a 20-minute wait and there's no AC. And also, the sun's right on me. And also, I think we might need a rail replacement bus at the very end. Again. That does not inspire confidence right there. Welcome to the AKN. It is half bus.
On that note, I really like how the new DMUs look, even if they have a really weird seating layout. Unfortunately, our A3 route unexpectedly ended, leading to another rail replacement bus.
No, said Jamie, heading back to Elmshorn. I refuse to do another rail replacement bus.
At this point, Xander and I were exhausted and we had a train to catch to Berlin the next morning, so I have to instead head back out into AKN by myself the following weekend to finish riding it all. This time, I began by heading into Hamburg and taking a regional train to Neumünster. Ah, Neumünster. What an interesting place. Another for the list of German cities I think would benefit from some sort of tram network in the urban core. There's just so many cars around here. Though the small near the station was pretty cool. I even got some sweet merch. Ooh. This only cost me $5, by the way. Unfortunately, I was going to need yet another rail replacement bus, as AKN trains were only operating to the second last stop from Hamburg, Neumünster Süd. And to top things off, my rail replacement bus sped off without letting anyone board, so I guess now I'm on a normal city bus. Huh. God damn. Neumünster Süd is probably my least favorite German rail station I've ever had to use. It reminds me of something you'd find on a rural Amtrak line that only gets like 2 trains a week. You know, like Houston. The bus drops you off across the street from the station with no zebra crossing in sight. Oh boy, I sure do love having to cross busy traffic, especially when it also involves maneuvering around a railway crossing. Once past that game of Frogger, I had to shimmy my way to the center platform. And on one final note, just to top off the beauty of Neumünster Süd station, there is an abandoned siding here, which is just kind of sad. Though I also got a good view of an AKN maintenance facility, so +1 for foaming.
So, I originally wanted to do some sort of funny, snappy opening about this video about rural rail. Yeah, I'll try saying that a bunch. Rural rail. Especially here, like in the towns north of Hamburg. But, oh my god, if I have to take another rail replacement bus, I am going to smash my head into the nearest window.
Props where it's due, Neumünster Süd is more an exception than anything else in the AKN network. I feel like most of these stops are too rural for you to have to deal with this type of traffic. Some are a little more than a platform and a bus shelter, and a shaded one at that in most cases. And honestly, I think that's okay. I feel like if this system had been privatized, it would have gone away years ago, but it wasn't, and I'm glad about that. Some of these towns are downright tiny, and I know it's technically part of a metro network, but I think the AKN is textbook rural rail, and that's great. No, seriously, I think that's awesome, because while the passenger numbers might not be the highest in the world, it feels like a lifeline for some of these communities. I'm really glad I wrote this entire network, even with the hiccups, because I got to see some really neat places I don't think I would have discovered otherwise.
Ooh, we got some, construction equipment foaming.
Obligatory rant against rail privatization aside, I do want to highlight a few stations, all 3 seen here on my trip south on the A2 from Neumünster Süd. First off is Dodenhof, yes, spelled all lowercase. This is a huge mall that was actually meant as a highway attraction, and yet it has its own dedicated AKN station. I just found its existence particularly amusing. Next up is Kaltenkirchen, the future northern terminus of the S5. I've talked about it before, but I really love the aesthetic of the station. I just think it looks really cool and kind of retro-futuristic. In some ways, it also already feels like a modern metro station, and one is only a couple of places on the AKN network where the trains get fully grade separated and dive underground. Even though the S5 will be replacing a lot of A1 stations, by the way, that service potentially won't be completely going away. It seems that AKN is looking to make some sort of shuttle train between certain stations on this line that act like an express version of the northern S5 lines. It kind of reminds me of how the RE5 operates on the southern portion of the line, at least between Harburg and Stade. The final station I want to mention is Ulzburg, which feels the most metro of any station on the current network. Originally, the train line cut through town here and was seen as a dividing force. Here's a picture of it here with more of a traditional AKN style station. But around the turn of the millennium, it was moved underground with this new station. And I can understand why. I mean, you can't have a part of town that's the other side of the railway tracks if tracks aren't dividing the town. After passing through Ulzburg Süd again and seeing some cool sights such as this abandoned building and a big-ass power plant, I made my way back to Norderstedt, Mitte.
Alright, so it took 2 days, 4 different rail replacement buses, and braving 35-degree heat, but we did it. And by we, I mean me, and for like 2/3 of it, my husband. We rode the entire AKN rail network. And was it worth it? I'm not itching to do it again.
Something that I hope was made clear from my footage is, as rail and often slow as trains are up here, and they really can be kind of slow at times, only hitting a max speed of around 80 kilometers an hour, and they aren't always hitting that max speed. But this is still a really pretty part of Germany. And also, I feel like the AKN is a really essential service. I do like how at peak some routings can operate at 20-minute frequencies, but I can't help but wonder if it's really of much use from those going to and from Neumünster, as A2 only seems to serve them hourly most of the time. Then again, there's also regional trains that go between there and Hamburg and even stop at Elmshorn, so But hey, that's it. That's the AKN. Rural rail is important. It can even be a lifeline for some small communities. And I like these lines. Not my favorite in Germany though. I actually got a question about that for this video. What's my favorite rail line in Germany? And that award goes to the RB33, which goes between Buxtehude and Cuxhaven via Bremerhaven and Bremerförde. It also has some fantastic scenery about it. It's kind of a route I'd love to just get a group of people together to take rail photography on. Doesn't have my favorite named station though. That award definitely goes to Assmannshausen.